Welcome back. This is another edition of the This is Jazz Today playlist. I'm here with Alan Blanchard. My name is Nick Finzer, and this is our first video podcast. We're moving up in the world of podcasting, or down, or sideways. We're just getting to the times, I suppose. But it's exciting to try new things, even though, as I already told Alan, I tried to do a live stream this morning, and my computer definitely just hated me so much for doing it, and it was very challenging. But Alan, welcome back to the show. We're talking,
Yeah.
what month are we talking about now? We're talking about April.
April. Yeah.
Yes, April 2020. It's been almost 2 months of self-isolation, so hopefully people are doing okay, and they need some music, so they should go to Spotify. They should go to the This is Jazz Today playlist. They should follow the playlist so that you can see the new music each and every month. We keep 6 months worth of music on there, so, and get to highlight brand new releases that are coming out each month. They aren't necessarily ranked in a, like, this is the best song, this is the worst song, but we just have a bunch of songs that we thought were really good, right?
Yeah.
So I think anything interesting this month, anything that people should know before we kind of go through the tracks?
I mean, I don't know. These are a lot of people that I don't normally go to, that I listen to. A lot of singles this month, and for releases coming up and whatnot, like a re-release on it and all. But I think it's a good month. I mean, I don't know. I can always at least find 10 tracks that are killing every month. So,
yeah, except for 1 month we had like ballad time. That's always, but there's always lots of good music coming out. April is a good, April, and I'm sure May is going to be even crazier.
right.
Or all the artists could decide that they're going to just delay their releases and not release because they're not touring this summer because all the festivals are canceled. Did you see the Newport Festival canceled yesterday?
I did see that yesterday, which, I mean, I kind of knew, at least I had a guess that it was going to happen. I just didn't know when they were going to finally, announce and everything, which is nuts just to think about, that Newport's not there.
I know. I've been pretty much in doubt, I guess. I've been thinking that maybe it would actually happen, even though it definitely isn't. What I'm trying to say is, like, it makes sense that it's not happening, but I'm kind of like, oh, it'd be really great if this worked,
Like, you
if
still
it
got that
worked
one
out.
hope, like it's going to work out. It's going to happen.
That's what I really do have, that I'm like, yes, it's going to work out. Yes, it's going to work out. And everything keeps getting canceled, and then I'm disappointed. So I should just stop thinking anything is going to happen. But that's okay. We have some great music to listen to this morning, and we're going to actually listen to some music on the podcast today, which is very, very exciting. I'm learning about technology. I'm not going to be an old man that can't use the computer. This is one of my goals in life. All right, so why don't you tell us about the first record, and I'll be the DJ while you talk about it.
Yeah, sure. So this first record is Smoke Session debut from Wayne Escoffery. It has Randy Brecker on it. It has David Kikoski, I think, playing piano.
Kikoski, yeah.
Yeah, maybe you should be pronouncing these. Ugana Okegwo on bass and Ralph Peterson on drums. And it's a really cool release. He has an arrangement on here of a classical piece, Benjamin Britten's Missa Brevis in D, which is like tracks 3 through 5. And then the rest of them are like some originals of his. I think Quarter Moon is actually like a Charlie Rouse tune. But it's really cool. The whole thing of like doing like a jazz interpretation, arrangement, whatever you want to call it, of like a classical piece is something that I've always found like particularly interesting, to see how people reimagine those things and arrange them and go through like these larger works. I like Randy Brecker, so that's always something I'm looking for on releases, is like who's playing trumpet and whatnot.
Who's playing trumpet? Always
Yeah.
who's playing trumpet.
But Wayne is awesome. Like, I think I first heard him with Tom Harrell, and when he was doing that, and Tom Harrell is someone who's definitely I like checked out for a little bit and then kind of went away and like starting to again more. So that kind of put this more on my radar. But it's a great release. The entire thing's out. I picked the opening track, Chain Gang, which was, I don't know, I just felt started off with like really good energy, like one of the good tracks on it, but there's not anything on the record that I was like, So it's good. I think people will enjoy it. It's definitely a little bit more modern. You kind of hear his influences of playing with Tom in it, playing in like the Mingus big bands and like the revivals of that he was doing and whatnot. So here we are. And it also has David Gilmour on guitar as well.
Oh yeah, he's killing. Here, let's hear a little bit more of it while we move on. There you go, David Kokoski. You'll have to go to the playlist if you still haven't figured out how to find the playlist. It's on Spotify. If you don't have Spotify, you can still find the playlist to see what's on it, and you can listen to all these great artists' music and follow us so that we can take this podcast to the next level, and this playlist also, both. Okay, so we're going to keep moving here. We have something from bassist Russell Hall, and I didn't know Benny Greene is on this too. So why don't you give us a little insight here about this track?
Yeah, I don't know much about it at all, actually. I don't know if it's just some singles that are coming out. I mean, I'm assuming it's a single in respect of like a new album that's going to be coming out down the road, but it's Russell Hall's project, to my understanding, with Benny Greene featured on it. And then it also has Reuben Fox playing tenor and Kyle Poole playing drums. And I just found this from simply trying to find what Benny Greene's been doing and listen to more of him. Phenomenal pianist, like so much history and vocabulary and his playing and whatnot with like his hard bop roots and kind of where he got known and whatnot. And he's just, he's great. But I think he also collaborated with Russell on that album he put out last year, The Feeling of Romance or whatnot. But I don't know. He's great pianist. Russell's great. The entire band's great. I hope it's an album coming up. Who knows if it is or not?
I'm not sure.
But it's killing.
You said Kyle Poole's playing drums. I was just trying to show the album cover. Here's the album cover over here. Now I hit it.
Yeah, Kyle Poole, and then Reuben Fox is on tenor.
Nice. The young crew, Juilliard crew. Well, not Kyle, but pretty much he's in that crew at this point. Great. So it's nice ballad vibes here. Great. So let's keep moving to it. We got another pianist release here. I'll say the name since sometimes you have some challenges with that. That's Art Hirahara on piano.
Okay.
And his
I definitely knew how that one went, but I will 1000% own up to awful mispronunciations. Album coming out from him, which also has Melissa Aldana, Joe Martin on bass, and then Rudy Roystein on drums. It gets tough to start describing some of these albums because it's just like, what do you do? It's a bunch of great musicians getting together, playing music. Like there's some covers on here, like Prelude to a Kiss and whatnot. But it's just a great album that they put together out on Positone. I think it's like his 4th or 5th release with Positone.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, I've been a huge fan of like Melissa's playing, and I think that she adds a great stuff to the tracks that she's on. She's not on all of them, but it's a good album with a lot of diversity. I mean, there's some stuff where he does like solo piano with Prelude to a Kiss, and then all the other tunes, and just hearing the differences between his writings and the covers and interpretations. You know, it's just good. I don't know what else to say. Like it's great. You know, it's modern if that's your thing. There's a lot of like lyricism to his playing, and it's definitely one of those more modern ones that I don't think some of them can like wear on you after a while. You know,
Right.
you got to listen to it in bits and pieces because it's just too much. But I didn't get that from this one. You know, you can just put it on and go start to finish, which is nice and refreshing. And no vibe if the other way's your thing. You know, everyone has their different opinions and preferences to what they like to listen to.
Sure.
But I think people will be into it. You know.
Yeah. So I'm going to ask you this question because you're listening to a lot of music.
Yeah.
You're still a person that listens to a lot of music. You're
I would hope
a
so,
young
yeah.
man that enjoys listening. No, but I'm asking, like, so do you usually listen to whole records or no?
I've been trying to, like, it's become a practice that I've had to do because I'm very notorious at finding tracks that like I obsess over and then obsess over that. You know, like off a Terrence Blanchard record and like the track Transform on it. I think I ran that single track like 70 times in a week. It was just all I would listen to wherever I was driving or when, you know, doing anything. But it's had to be something that consciously I've had to like, not force isn't the right word, but like go into it with the intention of saying like, okay, I'm setting aside this time later to listen to this album. And there are some albums that I think are way easier to do it than others.
Mm-hmm.
But yes, I mean, I'm trying to more. I think it's that like everything about life has kind of forced us to not do that and the way that like the industry's going.
Well, I don't know if it's the industry. I think the industry is chasing people's behavior.
Yeah. I mean,
Industry
I don't know. The
is
last
slow,
one I listened
man.
to all the way through was like Clifford Brown with Strings, you know, and before that it was
But that's the difference because that's short. That's
yeah, and that, it's
records
very
used to
short.
be short,
Right.
and you could listen to it all the way through. So that's I don't know. I mean, this is another discussion for perhaps another day. But if you're an artist that's putting stuff out, you know, a lot of people have success doing like 3 EPs out of one record instead of doing one record that's 14 tracks long when all the
Yeah.
tracks are 6 minutes.
But and you know, and there's been other records like there are some longer ones that are like that McBride record that just came out with the
Sure. I think
about
long records are
Saving
great
Grace.
too, but
Right, but they're long, but they're not all like 12-minute tracks, you know?
mm-hmm.
It's just like that's the way the tracking went with shorter movements and everything.
Mm-hmm.
But I completely hear what you're saying. It's tough to I mean, it's tough with even concerts too when you go and there's a great song that's happening or piece or whatever you want to call it, and it's great. I'm not denouncing that, but it's like 19 minutes long, you know?
It's hard to pay attention to.
Yeah.
And yeah, anyway, it's just something to think about. Like you can get more mileage out of a release if like people only need 30 minutes of music to like have it be a full length. I mean, technically it's not full length, but you know, like when you had an LP, 2 sides, 4 songs, you
Right.
know, whatever, 30 minutes, everyone was cool. So anyway, just something to think about if you're putting together a project record. Not you, Alan, but you and the global you. I'm not going to give you a hard time about that. Let's just move on. All right, let's check out this new. This is one I've been meaning to check out. I haven't checked it out yet. These next 2 actually have been on my radar, but I did not get a chance. So can you? I have no idea how to say this cat's name, but he's South African, right?
Yes, and that's very interesting because I knew nothing about either of these releases until I was doing like research of what just came out. And so this is a South African influenced, you know, like very strong South African. It's where he's from. Modes of communication, letters from the Underworlds. and his name, and I'm going to butcher it, I'm sure, is Nduduzo Makhathini.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
But man, this was so cool because like someone I had been listening to more in the last year was like Hugh Muscella.
Mm-hmm.
And so this was something that I won't say like along those lines, but was just really interesting to hear how it was approached and all. And it kind of has like a Kamasi Washington vibe to it
Yeah.
in the way that I think the arrangements are laid out. I know he talks a lot about how he's influenced by like Coltrane and like a Love Supreme, which makes so much sense listening to it. But it also, you know, this goes back to just something that's so cool about the music that we're able to do now is how like all these worldly influences and different cultures and people being able to like tap into that and meld it together and hear where that's all coming from. So I don't know. This is one that I think like is going to get more interesting for me, like reading more about it and actually understanding it on like a really nerdy, you know, educational level. But I think a lot of people can take beauty in it too, just for the music and you know, and the different influences and moments that it has.
Yeah, I mean, even just quietly playing, you can hear the kind of train influence for sure.
Yeah.
And the cover is pretty cool as well, but it's kind of got that same like Marquise Hill
Right.
and Kamasi modernist kind of thing to it. That's cool. Is the whole record kind of this way, or is it varied?
Yes, like more of that, but there's definitely some variety on it to different tracks and all. I mean, I'm reading more about it right now. He's had so much success, but it's been mostly, I mean, he came and was like played with Lincoln Center and whatnot and has been featured in all these
Right.
festivals. Um, but this is like his ninth album, you know? So
Mm-hmm.
I guess I need to go back and, and learn more about it all.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I don't know. It was a very surprising project just because I was unaware. And definitely glad now to be more aware, you could say, you know.
Yeah, I mean, I think he was just featured on that. Did you see that Lincoln Center thing? The gala YouTube version,
No,
the
I didn't
live
watch it yet.
YouTube. I think he's on. I think he was
Okay.
featured on there, or maybe it was him. Or pardon my generalization. Another South African tenor player, but it's probably. I think it was
I mean,
him.
I don't know. I know he did like a 3-night like a South African songbook type approach, you know,
Mm-hmm.
up there at with Lincoln Center. So it very well could have been, but
It
I
could have
haven't
been.
seen it yet.
Yeah. Awesome. And then this next one is from one of my favorite guitarists, personally, but Lionel Lueke, and this used to be his trio, but I guess it's like a not under his name. It's under this band name, Gilfema, and they used to play. I remember seeing them when I was in college. But tell us what you thought about it.
I mean, that's basically how I found it. I know, like we talked. I think it's like almost a year ago now, probably a little less actually, when like Herbie came through Nashville, and that was where like Lionel Loecki was like again exposed to me, and like from there I was just obsessed, I guess. You know, he's like a ridiculous guitarist and just ridiculous. Like the things he hears, I don't understand, but they're so great to hear. You know, like
Sure.
listening to him is like what Jacob Collier is to some other people. Just understanding how he hears like harmony and rhythm and all these different things going on at the same time. And so this was just the other day. I think I was like I just Googled Lionel Loecki, be like, what are the projects that does he have videos of? You know, let me go listen to him. And this came up, which is cool because I didn't know it had ever existed. But, you know, supposedly they went to Berkeley together and then Monk Institute together. And it's the project definitely goes like all over the place, which is cool. There's tons of different influences and everything. There's like some Jimi Hendrix type vibe going on at some point in time. There's like some more ballad type moments. Like the track I picked is definitely a little bit more like bluesy funk influenced, if you will, which I think, at least to me, definitely is like a Lionel Loecki vibe that he does a lot. And so I don't know. I don't know exactly how to like pin one thing down on the album. But it's really cool to see where all the various directions that they take and everything, and just hearing him play. I'm a very big Lionel Loecki fan. Not to talk less about the rest of the other trio, but that's just me.
Sure. Yeah. No, he's great. And there's a lot of records they've made together, because his records plus these new Gilfema records. But yeah, yeah, I've also been a fan of them for a long time. Yeah, he's got just like an interesting way of, yeah, just hearing something crazy to play on the guitar.
But it doesn't come across crazy.
Right. I just, yeah, it feels natural, but then when you're like, wait, what is he playing? Like,
Yeah, there's definitely been a couple of moments when I was listening to him where I'm like, I don't understand. Is he singing right now? Like, what is this? And it's just him. And it's like, all right, man, like, here we go.
yeah, that's great. A favorite for sure. And let's see. I guess we're switching up the vibe pretty swiftly here. We're moving to a legend, a re-release, or you were saying something about this before we started. It's not a re-release, but a new release. To explain.
I don't know, man. This was me falling into the traps of Spotify, where I was like looking around, and they make the playlist, the made for you, and
Yeah.
Ahmad Jamal came up, which makes sense because I've definitely listened to a good bit of Ahmad Jamal or Bad Vibe or whatnot. And they were like, here's a record that just came out in 2020. And I was like, oh, great. And then I'm looking up information about it, and it did not at all. I was like, this is weird because I feel like this is really familiar. And I guess it came out in like the golden year of jazz, whatever you want to call it, 1959. And it's just the first time that it's getting put on Spotify, or it's been remastered, and it's, they're making money off of it again somehow.
Yes.
And it's Ahmad Jamal with his trio and a 15-piece string section. It's really good. It's Ahmad Jamal. Like, I don't know. I've been listening. I think maybe I'm more into this right now because I have been listening so much to like Clifford Brown with strings, and like just listening to jazz with strings. So to hear this is really good. And I think they do, I mean, who am I to say a great job? But like they do a great job with the balance between strings and piano trio, which is cool, because I feel like sometimes it either comes off where it's like A and B and A and B, or like how do they actually blend and go back and forth and whatnot. But it's really good. I would recommend it. If you haven't checked it out, you should.
Yeah. Well, that makes sense to me, because like he has always had that good blend of like arrangements and tunes and like improvisation. I mean, like the trio was always kind of ebbing and flowing between. You couldn't necessarily tell like the first time, it was like, oh wow, this is one chorus of blowing, and then it goes into this section or that section.
Right. It just seemed very organic, and like I know like they probably talked about a roadmap to some degree, but like I couldn't find it,
Sure.
And that's not a bad thing. And his touch is so light, I think it doesn't fight the strings or whatever, or there isn't ever a concern of like, I mean, light isn't even the right word, but like sensitive. So there just isn't a concern of overpowering or anything else. It just is able to continue that idea of like an ebb and flow between violins and piano and whatnot. And he plays off of it really well, and does a bunch of tunes that I think people either know from him or just standards in general. And it's a great record.
Fantastic. I mean, he's Ahmad Jamal. Can't really go wrong.
Right.
Can't really go wrong. Really go wrong. I can't even talk today either. But let's move on here. Keep going with Jimmy Greene, amazing tenor saxophonist.
Yeah, I definitely haven't listened to that much Jimmy Greene. Like I'm still stuck on 2014 record, Beautiful Life. That was kind of my first introduction to him. But here comes this new album that I'm here for. You know, it's a great band with Laj Loon on guitar, and then Ruben Rogers and Stefan Harris. Kendrick Scott is on it, and Aaron Goldberg, I think. And it's really interesting because I think it's just a different vibe than what I'm used to maybe listening to with Jimmy Greene, and that's because of like my disconnect with maybe of what he has been doing and everything. But he does some covers on here and great stuff. You know, So in Love is Cole Porter, where he plays soprano on, and I think he's like a phenomenal soprano player as well as tenor. You know, but there's such a wide and variety of influences. I mean, the Whitney Houston tune, "I Want to Dance with Somebody," like a very gospel influence with Simple Prayer. So I don't know. I haven't listened to all of it by any means. I've listened to parts of it, and I've liked so much what I've liked. I've liked so much so far what I've listened to. I can't talk either. But it's killing. Yeah, man. I gotta blame you.
Yeah, feel free.
But it's killing. I want to get more into it, listen to more of it. This was just one of those that like I kind of, you know, I listened to a little bit of it. I was like, I know I'm gonna like this, you know, so let me just go ahead and put it on here. But yeah.
Nice. I have a tune with the same title, Steadfast. Come on, man. Kidding. I love So in Love. That's a great tune. Cole Porter has so many good ones, man. It's crazy. Everybody wants to crap on Cole Porter, but
I don't know why. Though I will say
Smith.
That's fair. I mean, I'll give him that. But like they're not like that's not a bad thing if they're good tunes that he's putting together, you know?
Yeah, but he's got great harmony too. That's the thing.
Yeah.
Surprising harmony, which is like you can't always do that in jazz and get away with it. Be surprising and interesting melodically.
Honestly, I mean, the amount of times that I've gone to write something and and I'll be like, man, I don't know what to do here. And they go, just 2-5 it, you know, or backdoor 2-5. And it's like, man, I don't want to like, I don't want to just do that, you know?
Yeah. You know, All Through the Night, you know that tune?
I mean, I don't know it, but I know the tune. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like the harmony is pretty slick. Cole Porter, baby. All right. Moving on to someone, you know, I've never listened to this person. So I guess I'm going to start now.
Yeah, I haven't honestly either. It's Connie. I've seen more promotion, I guess, if you will, as of late, like her popping up in more places, and so this came out, and so I was like, well, let me check it out. And I'm here for it. It's for an album upcoming on Mac Avenue this summer. I think in June, maybe July. I think June though. And it features Ivan Taylor on bass, Bill Wasask on drums.
I don't know either of those people.
Yeah, but then it also has Walter Smith III and Jeremy Pelt playing horns. So, I mean, I'm here for it with that, let alone. But it's cool. I didn't have anything to expect. So I don't really know what to compare it to, but it's not anything that I would listen to. Like this is right there where what I think of when I think of like a modern quintet or a modern quartet. And even the song in itself, you know, it kind of starts with just her, but then it gets into Jeremy soloing and also and everything. So I'm just more interested to see what else is coming out. It was a single that I liked. I haven't listened to a lot of her playing, but I'm looking forward to the full album coming out. And maybe I think like I've written down some of her other ones I want to go check out later. Like she had done like a Richard Rodgers album.
Yeah, I saw that.
That's another song writer, that knows a couple things. So I'll go check out her interpretations.
I suppose. Great. Yes, I'll have to check her out. I've never really done that. Oh, let's switch it up right here. We've got Anat, Cohen, and Fred Hersch. Nice.
Yeah. So this goes back to we did a single of this last time.
Right. I remember.
With Sarah, that's coming up. I don't know if there's actually an album or if it's just singles that he's releasing over times.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to assume an album coming up. But this song was so cool. I've been listening to Anat more as of late because I know you play with her, and I just frankly I've never checked out her music that much.
Mm-hmm.
But it wasn't even actually the beginning of the song that got me into it. Like halfway through, Fred starts playing like on the strings of the piano.
Oh yeah,
and like using the piano as like a percussive instrument, which I was like, wow, that's really cool. Like I think you've seen some people do it and whatnot, or like dampen the strings. But I think getting into that point of like actually plucking and whatnot has maybe been more associated with like prepared piano or like classical music or experimental in that way. But it's done in such a cool way that like really intrigued me, and piqued my interest. And I was like, okay, man, like I'm about it. Let's go, like I'm here for it. What do you got,
Yeah.
And here we are.
Yeah. So I was listening to a very, very interesting podcast with another person that does the same thing. Not to say anything away from what we're listening to right now. I'm going to mute it. But I think that sounds great. And I think to get back to this record before I go and diverge for a minute, like I was saying before, Fred does his yearly residency at the Vanguard, and he always does duos. So I have a feeling the intention was probably to do something with that, like to release all these singles with duos, and then probably to do nights with each of those people would be my guess.
Right.
Or maybe he does it the Standard, not the Vanguard. I forget, but it doesn't matter because they're both closed right now. And but that's super cool. Have you been watching Fred's live streams? He plays a tune every day.
I've watched some of them. Yes.
Yeah.
I saw the one that I think Glenn shared the other day of a tune that he had written for Fred that now Fred was playing, which is
that's cool.
I mean,
I missed that.
That's been like one of the coolest things about all of this. I mean, like, sorry, shows are closed. Like that sucks a lot.
Mm-hmm.
But just seeing like all of these musicians now having a little bit more time, whether they wanted to or not, to be putting out more content in that way that's like a less formal setting, and you just kind of get to see more of them,
Mm-hmm. For sure. So what I was saying was that I was checking out this podcast. This guy's a physicist. I'm super nerd. I've never escaped me being super nerdy in life. But anyway, so there's a podcast, Nick, by this guy, Eric Weinstein. Eric Weinstein is like a physicist and a business person, whatever. And so he had Eric Lewis on his podcast. And they were talking, Eric Lewis, the pianist? He used to play he used to be in Wynton's group. He's on that Live at House of Tribes record.
Okay.
If you know that one.
Yeah.
And many others. And he's played with lots and lots of people. And then he eventually changed his artist name to Elu. And then he does this like rock jazz thing. He was on America's Got Talent. Does this ring a bell at all? Do you know who I'm talking about?
No, but I'm very intrigued.
Yeah, there's actually also an interesting Jazz Night in America episode that they did about him, where he's talking about his kind of career. He won the Monk competition and all this stuff, like in the 90s. Anyways, and they were just talking about he was talking about
I know who this
ways.
is now. Like, yeah.
And the prepared piano thing was what reminded me of this discussion. The podcast is called The Portal, and his conversation, it's super interesting because he's talking about just like he talks about music in general, but he really like talks about comparing Miles Davis and Kenny G, and he's super analytical about it, and it's super interesting. And like they're talking to a general non-musical audience, and to hear them have a conversation that's both deeply musical and deeply philosophical about jazz and like traditionalism and like Wynton, and then him breaking off and like going and doing everything that he's been doing. He plays, like rock tunes in jazz, in a quote unquote improvised style, and then he's moved into like hip hop, like producing, DJing live while he plays the piano and stuff like this. And but he's like the king of, he would have been the king of like quote unquote traditionalist jazz, Lincoln Center, Wynton Marsalis,
Right.
whatever that, what neoclassical jazz, whatever.
Right.
It's super interesting. Anyway, the podcast is called The Portal, and it's Eric Lewis, or Elu, talking about a whole bunch of stuff. It's super interesting if you're into nerdy stuff like
Yeah,
I
I
am.
never would have put the two together because I looked it up and like I now remember Elu when it was on America's Got Talent and like how that blew up and everything.
Mm-hmm.
Never would have connected to Wynton Marsalis' House of Tribes.
Mm-hmm. He's on other records too, but that's the one that I've listened to the most that he's on.
Right.
But anyway, super interesting in terms of, especially for musicians who are probably have a deep appreciation for that, and also do their own thing and want to write their own music, and kind of like just thinking about the whole from a philosophical place, like the whole thing, like the whole jazz industry, the whole idea of creating music. It's anyway, not, we're getting away. I've totally jumped us away from the podcast main purpose, but I really, really thought it was really interesting. So if you are a nerdy music appreciator like I am and want to check that out, Eric Lewis. So I would recommend both that podcast that I said, The Portal, and also that Jazz Night in America episode where he's talking about this transition. And also I recommend it for those nerdy people, but also for students, because he was a master's full ride student to Manhattan School of Music, being in New York, couldn't get a record deal, won the Monk competition, and just dealing with life and the fact that it's like, even if everything is going right, it doesn't mean that you're going to be successful once you get out of school, and that you really do have to like figure it out on your own. And that most people don't just get plucked and placed into these places of prominence and such things. And it was just been on my mind because, this week was our last week of class at UNT. So students are graduating. They don't know what they're going to do, especially during our current situation, no gigs, blah, blah, blah. And so it's been on my mind. So check it out. But I'm excited.
Man, that's deep. I mean, there's a lot of it like not knowing, A, with everything going on, and B, with like how much does music school actually prepare you for music life? A lot of it, I think we've talked about, has really just been right place, right time, or someone for some reason deciding that they're going to take a leap of faith in you,
Pretty much.
How much of that has to do with your actual playing versus you just getting along, or them seeing themselves in you, who actually knows?
Yeah. I mean, it's both. I don't think it's either or, it's all of the above, and It's different for every situation. But back to the podcast, back to the music. These are ideas that are discussed on some of our other podcasts. If you want to check some of our other podcasts, like we've been doing our Monday happy hour chats with our artists, outside in artists. They're coming out a couple of weeks after we record them, but if you want to see them live, you can go to outsideinmusic.com/live, and we broadcast those there every Monday, 7 p.m. Eastern. We've been checking in with them, seeing what they're up to, but oftentimes I'll drop some kind of question like that, and it diverges us away from music and then talking about something philosophical before they let you know what they're up to. But I'm very excited. I thought this record had come out months ago because I'd been seeing press about it. But one of my favorite musicians, I think his music was a big defining part of my college career. Why? Because his album Invisible Cinema came out then, and I don't know. And I'm old, I guess, now. But this is Aaron Parks, and so I'm excited that you included this.
Yeah, he is someone that I found out like the same time I found out about Brad Mehldau.
Hmm.
So that was a weird part of my life where I think I was only listening to like these two modern pianists back and forth. But then, I started to check out more because I ran out of those records, and started getting to like his work with Terrence. And then he came through FSU playing with Ben Wendell.
Mm-hmm.
And when they were doing like their season store and whatnot. And so that, he's just awesome. He's he's kind of somebody that I always like keep a track of with like new projects coming out and all. And so this is a single for an album that comes out I think next week of his new. I think it's his Little Big is what he calls the quartet, but the album is going to be Little Big 2, Dreams of a Mechanical Man. And so it's out on Rope-A-Dope. It has Greg Tuhey on guitar, David DJ Ginyard, or Ginyard. Let's go with Ginyard on bass, and then Tommy Crane playing drums. And yeah, I mean, it's just like so, like the same way we were talking about Ahmad Jamal blending like roadmap or anything. I think Aaron Parks and even for Brad Mehldau, like they all do that very much. But Aaron Parks kind of reminds me like that same thing that like the Fellowship Band does with Brian Blade and all, where it's like heavily and this isn't everything, but like heavily, it's like more of like a work than it is just a tune,
Sure.
Like they go in and out of different vibes for different tunes, but like they all, like I think he's someone you can definitely appreciate start to finish of an album. And I think there's a lot of thought that goes into track order and a lot of thought that goes into like how the compositions are tied together. And he's a very lyrical, big picture, thematic type of improviser, in my opinion, like someone that I would compare to like a Bob Brookmeyer or someone that's obviously writes a lot. And I think then that you start to see that in their playing when you're just talking about like their ability to develop ideas and maybe know a little bit more of what they actually hear in their head and how they like to interpret what they hear in their head.
Sure.
But he does it in such a modern way that's like very layered and complex, but it comes across in like simplicity. But you can definitely spend too much time getting like really nerdy about it, which from the sounds of it, you probably did.
Shh. Don't tell away my secrets.
But yeah, I think I just have a really good appreciation for like the maybe folk you could call it, but like the overall like lyrical influence that is Aaron Parks playing, which makes it really cool to be able to follow it. Because I think, going back earlier when we were talking, like a lot of that stuff that can sometimes wear down on you is where there is a lack of that, which has its time and place, I think, in everything. But when it's just a lack of lyricism, or at least my understanding of lyricism or ability to understand that, is where it can start to get a little tiring on the ear, if you will,
Yeah.
Not trying to vibe people sense. Again for what they're doing, but like
Alan is vibing people.
Yeah. Vibe. I hate 95% of musicians, but like that's just, but it's so hard to do, and it's like a goal that I think we all have, to be able to do that, and it's. Call me jealous, he does it really, really well.
He does. He does. And it's a blending, I think, also musicians from different backgrounds in this case, in this project, at least, I think some of those guys play with other, they're not necessarily always jazz musicians.
Yeah. And it's really interesting. He does, the thing where he'll have like piano and then MIDI keyboard on top. And so that's really cool to see how he does, like, because he'll go back and forth, same song,
right,
like whatever. And it's, first off, it's just like, wow, I wish I could understand how to make a MIDI keyboard work like that, but it's just very, it like almost makes it not a quartet, like a quintet, type of thing, like Aaron Parks A, Aaron Parks B. Here we go.
Right, right. Yeah, that's sonic, having um, sonic explorations or options or whatever. Yeah, it definitely makes the orchestration feel larger than it is. But yeah, I've always been a fan of Aaron. He came through UNT in the fall, and that was really a great experience for our students to hear him play in that way. Do you know that record, duo record with Aaron and Ambrose? There's a duo record.
No, maybe
they play standards.
Okay. See,
there's a version of Stablemates on there that I show people a lot.
Okay, I need to listen to it, I guess. I will be completely honest that Ambrose is someone who's playing I love, but it's like I got to be prepared for what I'm going to listen to, because it just takes so much mental endurance, I guess you could say. Okay, I see the record. The Prelude to Cora.
Yeah, sorry, it's not all a duo record, but there is a duo version of Stablemates.
Okay, I'm saving that then to go listen to. But it's just like his playing and writing and like artistic goals are generally something that like I can't just put on for like listening. I have to be able to like unpack it and go through.
Yeah, he's got a bigger picture sensibility, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well,
bonus record.
Bonus records. That's why you got to listen to the podcast. Tell all your friends. I'm kidding. Well, we're really glad you could be here today, Alan, and also all of you listening. Thanks for checking out some of this music. Let us know what you thought of the new format. If you like the video, if you like getting to hear the tracks, if not, we can just go back to all talking. It's easier. But I think it's nice to be able to hear some of these records and share the music. So if you can't find it, go to Spotify. This is Jazz Today, and you'll see our playlist there. You can follow all of our playlists. We're doing our happy hour chats with our artists. We talk with our artists when their music comes out. We talk about these playlists and try to just generally share great music that's happening in jazz, because sometimes it's hard to find, especially with Apple Music and Spotify. I don't know. It feels hard to find new stuff sometimes for me, and I'm looking for it actively. So just for the passive listener, it might be more difficult. So if you want to see what's happening, follow our playlist. And we look forward to connecting with you again in the future. And got to have the outro music too, so you know that episode's about to be over. But Alan, thanks again for being here. Thanks for putting the playlist together. And I don't know. I think that's it. We don't have anything else to talk about. OutsideOfTheMusic.com/live if you want to check out what's happening. And we'll see you next month.